for this week's episode of Fearless Flight Live, and we're recording in progress. So want to welcome all of you that continually show up every week, and welcome any new people that we have doing this. And with me tonight, I've got good old Captain Eric sitting there in back for, well, I guess you were back last week from your dive, and yeah. And Diane is not flying, not training, not doing anything other than just being with us tonight. And Dieter, we're really glad to have you back, Dieter, after the absence and all that. So welcome everybody. Let me see if I taught myself anything today.
All right. Here we go.
So this is Fearless Flight Live. It's for, we do this to benefit anybody who has a fear of flying, people that know somebody who has a fear of flying, and anyone that just likes to talk about airplanes and stay kind of current with the airline industry. We ask and highly recommend that you join our Facebook group, Birds of a Feather. You can see the link down there at the bottom. I'm sure Dieter will put this in the notes. It's great to have his support back there, so I don't have to promise and then not deliver like I've not done in the last couple of weeks. And how many people did you say we've got in the group now, Dieter?
We got 885.
Wow. And it doesn't seem that long ago that we had 700, and we celebrated 500, yeah. So it really, we are really beyond the point where we get a critical mass, and we might share a couple of comments there down the road this evening. Tonight we have a special guest. First of all, I want to remind everybody, feel free to ask a question. We'll be monitoring those, or leave a comment if you have one down there. It really goes a lot better for us, and I think it's more interesting for you if we get more participation from you all out there. I have a special guest, Sonia Reyes, and I'll bring her up in just a second. I'm going to invite Sonia to stay with me and talk a little bit about a couple of notes that I had in Captain's Corner there. And I'm going to highlight the 201-301 class that is halfway through now. Give you the details in that. I'm going to talk about the Clear for Takeoff 101 in-person class coming up this Saturday, and then the 101 online class that the following morning, this coming Sunday morning on December 5th. And then we have just an item that we wanted to highlight from the aviation news update there. So, Sonia, if you want to join us here, I'd like to welcome you in here. And good to see you again. We just talked earlier today, so yeah. And thanks for coming on here. This is something that you have an abundance of, and that's courage, which is evidenced by what you've done just with me in the last. Oh gosh, how many? What's it been? About 2 or 3 months, maybe.
It's September, I think, mid-September.
Yeah. And I didn't remember, but what you reminded me that you had come to the classes at the airport how long ago? Like maybe 20 years ago or so?
It was an online PowerPoint that you did.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Online. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It was my postage stamp size PowerPoint in the days of GoToMeeting, when I didn't know, I knew less of what I was doing than even today. So,
yeah.
So I talk to people about what's their why for, it's obvious that people want to get over their fear of flying, but when people actually, because there's a lot of people that will never take any steps to get over their flying. So when you decided that this time you were going to do it, what was your why? I think everybody would find that interesting.
Oh, well, next week I will be a grandmother. So that's the ultimate why. And honestly, my daughter moved to Chicago from LA last year, and had she not moved, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
We'd be going by car, huh? Yeah.
That's right.
So yeah. we can blame it all on her. But anyway, exactly. I think that's a really cool. So how far back does your fear of flying go?
When it really started to get out of control was 2003. Okay. And that's about the time I think a friend of mine sent me a link or something, and that's how I got in touch with you a long time ago. And I muscled through for quite a while. I muscled through until 2012. I took long flights. After that, I took a couple short ones until 2015. No, 14, because it was 8 years since I flew at all.
Okay. And so did it get progressively worse, or was it about the same and you just decided that you weren't going to do that anymore? Or what was the
It was the last time I flew, I basically white knuckled it the whole way, and I decided I literally told myself I will never do this again. I don't have to do this again. I've seen plenty of the world. It's not necessary. I don't care. I will try it everywhere. I just couldn't do it anymore. And in fact, my son was in the hospital in Reno at the time, and I flew back, and my mom went to pick him up. I didn't even pick him up when he got released. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, and how was it affecting your life? You know, personally, job or anything like that as well? Or
so at work, when I still had to fly, and it came up, I was flying twice a week at the time for work when it really reared its ugly head. I still had to fly occasionally for work, and let's just say I overly medicated. I basically passed out. If we had meetings that were in Vegas or LA, though, I drove. There was also a time my daughter was going to school in New Jersey, and so I flew. Again, I overly medicated. I couldn't fly by myself. Someone had to be with me, my mom, my daughter, somebody, because I was basically passed out. It was bad.
So how did you get here? You know, I mean, I think people would like to know. So why now? What did you do different? What was the difference now versus all that time that you did?
Well, I always thought, sometime I need to get over this. So it was always kind of like this thorn in my side, and like a lot of my life is together, and this one little slice was not. And I thought I have to make a change.
Yeah.
And like I said, everything. Oh, there I am on the plane. Yeah, that was a couple of weeks ago. No, I'm not a pilot. So, but yeah, then my daughter told me she was pregnant, and I actually started looking at taking the train, and what my options were there, and that was always my plan B. And I thought, man, I can figure out how to do this. I knew I could figure it out. It was just, what were my steps? But I started like this past summer, and I actually started with a therapist, trying to find the root cause of all this. And then I was talking to you by September, and, and there's all the writing with my left hand about all the things I don't like about flying, and other things that I wrote. I wrote out all the things I had accomplished in my life, all the things I was grateful for.
Yeah.
And, I did the harmonizer. I'm still doing it right now because I'm flying Sunday, doing the harmonizer.
Okay.
Every other, well,
you had a really holistic approach to this. That's what struck me, and a willingness to be vulnerable, and that's so important for people when they do this kind of work, I think. Not to mention your commitment to doing it. So, when here you are in the thing. So what was it like when we got up to the day we flew? We flew on November 13th. Right. So what was it? Did you feel ready? Did you feel anxious? People usually want to know, when I ask people what's the main objection they have to taking the class where we go fly, is they say is getting on the airplane, because they just don't believe that they'll do it. But you did it. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I took the 101 class. I want to say 3 times.
Yeah. What's that? Oh, say that again.
So I took the. Yeah, I'm having a little bit of bandwidth issues here, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's coming back though. But I took your 101 class 3 different times. So yeah. I found out that actually getting on the plane wasn't my option. Going through 2ASA wasn't my problem. Through sitting on a plane is not my problem, right? Like that was a non-issue. but I wanted to get myself like just overexposed and to get some of that fear out. And so the other thing that I did was that last week or two before we flew, I kept watching those takeoffs from the window that you have on that kit. And I just watched it over and over again. And then I also realized that when the flight attendant comes up and does the safety briefing, that gives me some anxiety. So I watched those over and over again, just so I could hear it and not be bothered. And actually, I wasn't bothered at all by the safety briefing when we flew. Now, the other thing I had to realize that I was going to have some amount of anxiety and acknowledge that. And I think that's for all of us that are, come from fear, you're going to have some amount, and it's okay. The thing is dealing with it. And yeah, I did have some amount, but I mean, if it lasted 3 minutes, I'm probably guessing on the high side.
Right. Yeah. Well, the takeoff itself is usually, 30 to 45 seconds. And by the time we get into the air, which is about 2 to 3 minutes, most people calm down. And that's the difference between anticipatory and anxiety and the actual situational anxiety. I'm going to flip through there. And I want to use this. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to have you help me talk to people about what it's like to go through this process here. And so this is something you very graciously, you shared it with me, and I just was overwhelmed with it, with, the fact that, the amount of discipline that you had, and to watch your thing. And it's not like this is extraordinary, but it's extraordinary for most people, because most people just don't do the work like you did, when you talk about when you're watching the videos there, and you shared with me that, listening to the safety briefing was a trigger for you. And I never thought about that before, but I remembered back just 3 weeks ago when I flew with the last class over out of Burbank. There was the captain came on just to announce to people, hey, it's going to be an hour flight to Burbank, and we might have a little turbulence. And the minute he said a little turbulence, 3 of the folks in the class just started freaking out. And again, it just shows how that anticipatory anxiety is so strong there. So if you want, and you wrote me, I wish everybody could read your article that you wrote me about this journey that you had in this. So I want to say that, and I'll move on. Talking about making peace with your emotions, because I think that's really the theme of what you represented to me, is how you grasp this. And as you shared, you're not going to get it. You knew that you're going to have some anxiety, and you were willing to accept that. So I'll let you talk for a minute, and I'll quit talking like that. But share with people about the issue with your weight loss and how you did that.
Yeah, well, so I ended up being 100 pounds overweight. Obviously, it didn't happen overnight. It took years. It took years to become 100 pounds overweight, and actually, if we're all gaining 10 pounds a year, in the next decade, you're going to be 100 pounds overweight. It's really not that hard. It's pretty easy to do. And, it just wasn't me. It wasn't me. And I didn't, my inside didn't match my outside. And so I had to rectify that. But there was no way I could say, Sonia, you need to lose 100 pounds. No way. Nobody can. All I said to myself, and I continue to say to myself, is I need to get healthy. Because that was a real thing. Like, obesity will kill you. And it is a slow, painful, ugly death. And that's what I was doing. I was killing myself very slowly. And I decided, hey, I need to do something about this. I do not, I'm too young for my kids to bury me. This is not good. And so, but it was slow changes over time. First I started working out. Then I said, okay, well, I need to eat more vegetables. I need to make sure I drink enough water. Just ratchet, little bit. And then in a year, I lost 100 pounds in a year. So
And that, again, that reminds me of the way you attack the fear of flying is, because I tell pretty much everybody that I do one-to-one coaching with, like you, and even though you did the elite coaching where we ended up flying together, I give the same information to people in the classes or whatever, and I share with them, you've got to do something different, because if you don't do anything different, the way we think is like the way we write, and that's why I use handwriting as an example. We just you automatically do it the same way. You go on autopilot. And unless you interrupt that process, you're not gonna have any new skills or anything like that. And what was so, you and other people that I've worked with like this, what was so impressive is that every time we'd get together, you would say, I did this, and I watched the videos. I kept watching the videos, and because the harmonizer isn't about like your favorite, get a new CD or something. It's something you do over and over and over again. I joke with people, when you want to reach through and strangle me because you're sick and tired of listening to my voice, then you're getting better. And that's it. And it's just, to me, it's just reminiscent of what happens to us when we talk. When we get so used to our thinking going on automatic pilot there. So here's some things that I just, that came to mind as I was reflecting after you and I talked this morning. The challenge for most people, and I just flew with another elite coaching student, just escorted him down to Mexico Saturday from Portland. And the anticipatory anxiety is what was just ripping him into. He just could not quit thinking about his last flight and push and projecting it forward on that, and I experienced, you shared with me, your anticipation about that, but what you did that to me was so successful is what you shared earlier. You just kept doing things that were different, even though I'm sure it wasn't like your favorite thing to do for the day, right, with your non-preferred hand and all that. So, and I think it really, in your case, again, like most people, it's the anticipatory anxiety that really set you up.
Because you start thinking, well, what I heard in one of the classes was, well, you haven't flown in a while. How do you know you're going to feel the same as last time? I didn't feel the same as the last time I flew. My whole life is different since then. And that was, when I heard that, it really resonated with me. Like, wow, like I don't know how I'm going to feel. I'm probably going to feel some anxiety, but I don't think it's going to be as bad as last time. That was true. It wasn't as bad as last time. I think the other thing to do is to give gratitude to yourself. Your mind is trying to protect you. It really did a good thing. Like, thank you, but it's not necessary anymore. But thank yourself. I think gratitude goes a long way for all of this.
And I put down there, in most cases, you're going to feel emotions that you won't like. The anxiety is going to be there. At least, I tell people, you got to be willing to go through it one more time, this next flight, and give yourself a chance on that. And then I think you shared, it passes pretty quickly, once you get in there, because the situational anxiety, the actual anxiety that we feel in the situation is never, ever measures up to what we anticipate. It just doesn't. And I ask people, do you want to give up the rest of your life for 15 minutes of misery? And as you said, it wasn't even 15 minutes. So what we talk about, what you and I spent time doing is educating yourself about your fear, about, and I try to bring in everything. And you had an amazing backstory with what you've accomplished with the weight loss and just how you've changed your life. You shared with me about relationship stuff that you went through, and just, and we both bared our soul about, times when people would be totally surprised that, Capt has self-esteem issues too, but it's your willingness to make yourself vulnerable, to be vulnerable, which to me is the key to overcoming anything in your life and to really training it. So anyway, and disrupting and distracting your thinking, you've got to do something to at least intervene on your behalf with the thoughts that you've acquired automatically. And then we highly recommend, being social, and indeed we had a funny story that all of us here on the show were sharing about somebody who wrote in on the Birds of a Feather group there. So anyway, well, I just wanted to say thanks for coming on, and Sonia, because You are amazing, and I can't wait to hear about the being the new grandmother and getting to Chicago and all that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and thank all of you. Thank all of you. I mean, and I'm not going to expect you guys to remember me from all this time, but I've seen all of you. I've been around all of you, and you really are angels. You're helping people every day, whether you know it or not. You really are, and thank you. I mean, I'm flying to Chicago on Sunday for my grandbaby, and I don't know what else to say about that, but thanks. I'm going to stay on just to see what else you got to say, though.
Okay, cool. And again, thanks for coming on, and thanks for
Thanks, Sonia.
being so genuine. So, okay, let me
Peter, Ron, can I do a 30-second answer to a question from Don?
I think you're into it.
Just turn your video on.
I thought you would shut me off. I hadn't done it. All right. I
Wait,
can't start my video because the host has stopped it.
Oh, there you go. Now you can start it.
Oh, okay. Gee, thanks. Hey, Don, you asked the question. Don asked if air pressure can ever get so high it can prevent the airplane from flying. And I gave him a short answer because I was typing with my thumbs, and I said no. But in fact, Don, when we have extreme high pressure weather systems producing high pressure in an airport, the airplane is actually able to lift considerably more weight. It shortens the takeoff distance. It improves the climb rate on 1 or 2 engines. Everything that does is positive, and none of it is negative. And the bad part of my mind, however, remembered one time in Little Rock, Arkansas, was in one of our airplanes with another pilot, no passengers. So we were, of course, having inane industry conversation, and the humidity in Little Rock was at or near 100%. And in the summer in the South, when the humidity is 100%, it's a really big 100%. And we were looking at the haze layer, and I was flying with my pilot buddy, Larry, and I said, "Hey, Larry, will the airplane actually go through this?" And he goes, "I was going to say yes, but if we bounce off it, then pull up a little bit and then dive into it. And that way we can get into the haze layer." That's all just a joke. The high pressure is all good and none of it is bad.
Yeah, high pressure just means that the air, you got more air molecules in a tighter space, which means that the airplane thinks the air is thicker than it is normally. So, and the ultimate in humidity and high pressure is when you get so much water vapor in there that it turns to water and it starts raining. So yeah, so that's one of the things. Okay, good job on that question. Let me just remind everybody that we have our
a couple of people are asking about online and in person.
Okay.
So
So there's still time if you would like to jump into if you live in Phoenix, you can no matter where you live, you can take the 201 still. We're halfway through. We took a week off for last week for Thanksgiving, and we're going to resume that on Thursday night, the module 3 of 4, and we have the other modules up on the web so that you can watch the replays of those. So you haven't missed anything yet. You can still jump in there. Dieter's going to put a link in there to the class. And if you live in the Phoenix area and you want to fly in the 301 class, you can do that. We're going to fly from Phoenix to Ontario on December 11th. I just had somebody join the class today who's going to fly with us. So there's still time to do that. So you haven't missed out if you still want to join. And this is the 301 class. That's the graduation flight that we do afterwards. We've done module 1 and 2, but they are up in on the interweb in the replay area. And on Thursday, we're going to talk about coping tools and strategies. And then the last week on December 9th, we're going to do our mock flight. And then in preparation for our actual flight on December 11th, where we're going to go again from Phoenix to Ontario. So there's 6 hours of instruction. Eric and I tend to go over a little bit, so there's actually more than that. We use everything that I've talked about earlier tonight. We teach you how to know more about flying, know more about your own fear, and we teach you how to distract and disrupt your thinking so that you go to the airport armed in a way that you've never been armed before. And people like Sonia can attest to that. I mean, everybody's so grateful and kind to credit me and the other members of the team here on how much it helped. We're glad to do that, but you got to pat your own selves on the back for stepping up, because that's the hardest part. In 35 years that I've been doing this, I've witnessed that there's only a small percentage of the people who actually suffer from fear of flying who will ever take steps to get over it. And why not be one of those? We're going to give you the confidence that airplanes and flying.
Ron, to interrupt you, even though that is true, the percentage of people that step up is small. The percentage of people that succeed with this is very great.
Oh, it's
Once
huge.
they stepped up.
Yeah. People ask us, what's the success rate? Everybody that we see going through the classes and that I've coached one-to-one is successful. And I'm not kidding about that. It's just that easy. Fear of flying is one of the most successfully treated phobias out there. And it's interesting because it's one of the biggest phobias out there. And Sonia shared, and the fellow that I flew down to Puerto Vallarta over the weekend, he would say, he's got the rest of his life in order, quote unquote, but fear of flying is the last item in the chain of events to get healthy. And so we encourage you to stay with us and whether you join the classes or not, and keep coming back to the show here as well. Dieter is going to put this link up there, and it goes to a questionnaire. So if you are interested, just click on that link, go to the questionnaire, and fill it out. It'll come to me directly, and I will confirm your application, and I'll confirm that with you that in fact you really do want to join us, and we'll get you on your way to do that so that you can be successful. Any other comments or questions in there before we move on?
There were just a couple of questions. So I put the link for the online one-on-one class on December 5th, I think, is that?
The one-on-one is December 5th. Yeah, you know what? Let me open that up, and I'll put that up on the screen. Peter.
Just because there was a question about that one as well.
Yeah. Okay. So the 4th. I was going to not have a class this because I didn't think there'd be that much demand. But as it turns out, I've got the whole group that wants to fly from Phoenix to Ontario and back in the 201 class. So I thought, and a couple of them asked me about it. So I went to Southwest, and we're going to have what turns out to be a special edition of the 101 class this Saturday night, 7 to 9 o'clock at Sky Harbor Airport. If you click on this link, it will take you to the registration page where you'll get all the details, including instructions. We have free parking that we worked out with the airport. And so if you want to, I've got several members of the people of the 201 class that I said are going to fly on December 11th are coming, and a couple other people have registered as well. So it's a great opportunity to come. We spend the whole time of the class on the airplane. And so if you've got any issues with claustrophobia or being comfortable on the airplane, come and join us. It's like we own the place. Southwest is really gracious in letting us do this. So that's the 101 class if you happen to be in the Phoenix area this Saturday night. If you aren't in the Phoenix area, you can still have all the benefits of the 101 other than sitting on a static airplane by signing up on this link. This is a Zoom webinar that I will do on Sunday morning, December 5th. And you can go here and you can register for that. You can register for both of them if you can be in the class on Saturday here at the airport. It doesn't preclude you from registering for the online class as well. But we did want to finally put something out there for people who want to get started, and this is a great way to do it. So if you absolutely can't make it to Phoenix and you want to, but you want to get going, figure out what the next step is, do consider signing up via this link for the online webinar on Sunday morning. Okay, so oops, let me go back and stop the share. Okay, all right. So that's those are the details for the classes coming up. And if we have any more questions, otherwise I'll go into the aviation update that we had. Eric and I have been following this story. This is what kind of put me on the map, at least in the last what would be 7 years. It was this airplane that disappeared, the MH370, which was a Boeing 777, Eric, I think it was that.
Yes,
yeah,
it was.
That took off out of
somewhere in Malaysia, right? Or was
yeah,
it
Kuala Lumpur. I think Kuala Lumpur.
That's right. That's where it was.
And so this is a fella, and Eric, just remind everybody, we've been talking about this off and on for the last 3 weeks because it's been in the news, and people like Eric and I, we're just absolute nuts about first of all, how could somebody even track that when so many people said there's no way we'll ever find that? And even though I didn't know at the time, I go back to accidents like the Air France 447 that was en route from Brazil to Paris that crashed back in 2009, and how they find those black boxes. And so this is an extraordinary piece of information here.
I actually got so excited about it last time. Ron had to slow me down. I just started going into acronyms and mumbling in high speed. But the long and the short of it is this guy's a gifted aeronautical engineer. And to use Ron's line, he has folds in his brain where we don't even have flat spots. He's quite brilliant. And what he did was use a system called weak signal propagation, WSP, which he derived from detecting high frequency radio signals from the airplane, which is a transmitter, essentially an exceptionally powerful AM radio that we use for direct voice communications on long overseas flights when we're out of direct line of sight of stations. And the HF transmitter by its nature is always powered up and emitting something. And
right, so here, so let me. This is a question just came from, and this you might not know the answer to this. So obviously the airplane disappeared 7 years ago, right? So he's using transmissions that they made, so somebody had a record of these.
Yes, he pulled this from history of the flight, and to dumb it down, it's essentially like being able to, when the FBI is looking for a missing person and sees where their telephone attached to cell tower.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like cell tower technology.
Yes, he detected locations where the airplane passed certain locations and was able to plot this path. And they lined up with occasional satellite radar returns, which were very infrequent, but his points using that weak signal propagation technology matched exactly the few radar hits that they made. And he was just able to go from history of the flight along in a path, a point at a time. And he told people 2 weeks ago, he says, yeah, I'll be done by the end of the month. And here it is, it's the end of the month. He goes,
he did.
I'm done. There it is.
The article came up today. Yeah. I mean, I'm amazed, but I'll be totally amazed if they, if and when they find that wreckage, and you can bet somebody will go after it. Anyway, this last slide is the topography of the ocean. What was it, like 12,000 feet?
By that undersea mountain range in 4,000 meters of water. So it's going to take a little bit to get down there with a submersible and grab stuff out of the airplane. That'll be tricky. But
what's fascinating to me is you and I talked about this, about the fact that forensics there's I mean, the CSI series on TV has always been so popular, but it pales in comparison to what you and I experience on how they'll go after aviation accidents to find out what happened. And I've said for years, if we exercise that same kind of scrutiny and diligence in highway safety, we wouldn't kill 4,000 people every year. So it's my story, and I'm sticking to it. You want to be safe, get in an airplane. You want to put your life at risk, get in a car. So take that. All right, Diane, anything exciting this week other than they're going to grill you in training? So what tell us about what's coming up for you.
Well, Thursday I fly to Denver for my CQ. We call it, in my airline, we call it CQ, continuous qualification, which with some other airlines I call it recurrent training. And Eric and Ron have talked repeatedly, and me too, about the fact that the pilots and the flight attendants are trained continuously. It's not just, okay, you get your wings and you're good to go. That's not how it works. Everybody is tested and trained continually, so we all maintain a very high level of competency. And so for us, we're tested once a year. So I go up to Denver, and there'll be a hangar. Our airline has our hangar up there, and there'll be simulations, and we will have to go through different training on different parts of the aircraft that we have to use, fire extinguishers, oxygen bottles, all kinds of those kinds of manipulations. We have to retrain or be tested on opening the doors in emergency situations. Different kinds.
You can fly on several different types of equipment, right? So
we have four different aircraft. Now I'm based in Phoenix, so basically I fly two different type of aircraft. But I am qualified in all four, and so I'll be tested on all four. And then we are given scenarios with regard to our passengers or emergency situations. And we have to very specifically address and behave and go through specific, how can I say it, legends of how we address it. The FAA requires, in certain situations, in emergency situations, we have to say things verbatim. And so we have to be able to get our equipment and be able to go through those particular scenarios. We may have a passenger who is intoxicated. We may have a medical emergency. So the different scenarios that we are tested on, we have to make sure we go through everything we're supposed to. So it's pretty intense. And it's, so I'm suffering, as I said before, a little anticipatory anxiety. I'm sure I'll do fine, but it's important. And I want all the people out there, the passengers, to know that it's not just that we go in and we're flight attendants and we don't have to worry about anything. We constantly are tested and trained for virtually every situation. Yeah. So by next week, I'll let you know whether I'm a happy girl or not.
So when I was in the 6th grade, we had Mrs. Abshire, an old spinster, and she loved memorization. And so one of the things we had to memorize was the Gettysburg Address. She just thought that was one of the most important things. So she would have been helpful preparing you, because you have to get all of that dialogue word for word, right?
And that's a very interesting thing. I'm glad that you brought that up. One real simple thing that we all have to do, not just my airline, but all of us, is the exit row briefing. And have you all reviewed the passenger safety? We're required to ask 2 specific questions with very specific wording. It's absolutely required that we ask it in this order. Have you reviewed the passenger safety card? Are you still willing and able to assist in the event of an emergency? I need a verbal yes or no. And that's exactly what we have to say. And when people are answering in between, I go, no, please, because I have to say it, the FAA requires it that way. And then I have to look at each individual person in the eye and have them answer me. It's very important. And that's the only time that Flight Attendant Diane has no sense of humor. I will say
Yeah.
that.
And it's a time not to have a sense of humor yourself, because
Oh, no.
the flight attendant, they will not move past you until you give them the yes or no
if
answer.
anybody gives me a difficulty, if anybody is difficult about it, I will reseat them, because one of the requirements to sit in the exit row, for example, is you have to obey crew instructions. If you are not willing to obey crew instructions, I am going to move you somewhere else. So that's, I mean, it's very specific. Yeah.
We'll give you this secret hint. The answer is never in your cell phone. Not in the cell phone.
Yeah, take it.
All right. Well, it's we did pretty good tonight, gang.
Yeah.
So in the absence of any further questions out there, we will.
I think we're pretty good. Tom just let us know that there's been an incident on a flight apparently from San Diego to Canada. I don't know if you guys heard anything about that yet.
Well, we know it won't be the Canadian who was at fault. It'll be some gringo. So yeah.
I think here in the message or in the comment it says that there's a fuel leak and had an emergency landing at LAX. So
I saw that too, and I hadn't seen anything on the news pickup before we started. I don't know anything about that.
well,
And we want to make a quick shout out to Daniel. We feel your pain, Daniel, and you know how to get a hold of me. We need to talk if unless you wanted to get rid of that girlfriend. So anyway, so stay connected, and we will help you, matchmakers that we are. So anyway, all right. Thanks, you guys, everybody. Thanks, Derek. Thanks, Dieter. Thanks, Diane, and thank all of you for joining us for another episode of Fearless Flight Live. And we'll see you again next week. Thanks a lot. Have a great
You guys.
week. Okay, bye-bye.